We talked about it over the course of the offseason, the summer. When will Kyler Murray return to the Arizona Cardinals? When will he come off of the PUP list? Well, he hasn't, and he's been eligible for 2 weeks. Now, the play of Joshua Dobbs subsequently after San Francisco, I think, made that easier, gentlemen, for them to say, let's just take a beat, right? We've got some time. Well, Dobbs' play potentially forcing the issue. We'll talk about that here in a second, but this is what this show is prepared to tell you right now. Quote, it would be a surprise if Kyler Murray was not back practicing this week with his teammates. Now, that doesn't mean he would play against Seattle. Not realistic. We're told the Cardinals would like to get him at least 2 weeks of practice ahead of NFL Sunday. But, quote, we are being told it would be a surprise if the Cardinals did not open up Kyler Murray's practice window this week ahead of Seattle.
That's refreshing to hear. I mean, as far as what the Cardinals, the luxury that Joshua Dobbs, or the perceived luxury a couple weeks ago, the NFL world, you have to be able to pivot and certainly go a different direction. And I think that, the time is now. I mean, it's time to take the next step in this process, right? Joshua Dobbs gave you a little bit of breathing time there, but now let's start to, like you said, open that window, start to get him on the practice field, get him ramped up to see action on the playing field once again for the Arizona Cardinals. I think that it's not overdue. Look, I think you pretty much drew this thing out as far as you could possibly go. But now is the time to get your franchise quarterback back in the fold.
I agree. And, I mean, we talked before the season, too. Week 7 was a realistic type of thing of him coming off if he didn't do it at the beginning of the year. And we're approaching Week 7 now. Yeah. So I think it's time to at least get him in the fold of moving around at practice, calling plays in the huddle, throwing, finding, going through reads in a relaxed environment before he actually goes out. But, I mean, if you're a Cardinals fan right now, you've got to want to see some type of positive with Kyler Murray coming back right now.
I expect an announcement, a tweet, something leaked here in the next 24 to 48 hours that Kyler Murray is coming back and practicing this week. But again, that's a 3-week window that starts from there, Bo Brock. We're seeing it with Garrett Williams. Like, we thought Garrett Williams potentially would be active. You told me on Friday, probably not going to happen, and that was the correct call. Garrett Williams, they're going to use all 3 weeks, and supposedly he'll be active ahead of Seattle next week. But again, if they're treating their third-round rookie corner like that, I would imagine they're going to use similar, if not more, caution with Kyler Murray. So it's going to be exciting if and when this week, and I expect him to be removed from PUP or opening up that practice window, but it's going to take at least 2 weeks. I think best-case scenario, they activate him this week. He practices on Wednesday for the first time since his torn ACL last December. He's done no football team activities since last December. They bring him back. He has 2 weeks of practice, Seattle and Baltimore, and he plays against Baltimore at Week 8 at home. If that does not happen, we're being told, do not be surprised. They activate him before the Browns game. They make him potentially inactive or quarterback 2 that day, like he was with Colt McCoy a couple years ago when he was injured. And then they bring him back the following week at home, a nice soft landing spot against Atlanta. And I get it, that's 3 weeks away. Cardinal fans are probably like, what the hell is that? What are we waiting another month for? I think the Cardinals will activate him, but then another clock starts, Bo Brock, and it's the practice clock. And only Kyler, Jonathan Gannon, and Drew Petzing are going to be able to check that box and say he's ready to play.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the same as Joshua Dobbs coming over with only a week and a half to prepare. It's like Joshua Dobbs was in training camp. He was taking reps. He was playing in preseason, and he also had familiarity with Drew Petzing's system. Now, Kyler Murray does now have familiarity between the ears, but Britton, it's a completely different ball game. One, getting up to speed and seeing it in real time on the field, but also getting in. What's the difference between being in shape and being in football shape?
2 different things.
Right?
2 different things. I mean, especially as
I'm
an
in
offensive
shape right
player.
now, but I couldn't play in the NFL. Is that what we're saying?
Johnny. No, Johnny. It's a different type of thing now. Now, don't get me wrong. Being in shape also goes with now you're getting hit too.
Yeah.
Even if he does come off and he practices for 2 weeks, there's still going to be a difference from him practicing for 2 weeks and coming back and him coming into an actual game to play. Football shape and in shape is 2 different things. I'm in decent shape right now. I've been working out lately.
You're in great shape.
I'm in decent shape right now.
Follow this man on Instagram. He's always in the lab.
If I had to go out there and play a football game right now, I would look like I'm in Denver right now with an oxygen mask. It's 2 different things. And like I said, too, you have to factor in the fact that he's going to get hit now.
Yeah.
He hasn't been hit in a very long time.
Yeah.
He's been out of that system. He hadn't even, like you said, there's no football activities he's done since last December. So it's going to be a learning process, even when he does get back in the game, even when he feels ready in practice and the coaches feel that he's ready. The beginning of that first game is going to have to be up here for him that, hey, I'm going to get hit. I know I'm going to get a hit. I've been doing this my entire life. Prepare yourself for it. Because if he goes in there unprepared, he gets hit one good time and he's then it could be what we're seeing now. Inaccurate passes. We're getting scared in the pocket. We don't really know. My first read's not there. I panic. So
yeah. How do you replicate that? Because I remember Carson Palmer saying that. That's why he liked to see preseason time, because he could take a hit.
Yeah.
And in a weird way, he liked that because that got him back into that mode. How do the Cardinals do that without the ammo being live for Kyler Murray?
It's tough as a quarterback. If you have any other type of, a skill player or a lineman, you can throw them in. I know when Tyron Matthew was coming back from his torn ACL, when they were trying to integrate him back in after practice, we would have tackling drills for him, right? Live, right? I was on the practice squad after that first one, so I was the live tackling.
You were the sacrificial dummy to Honey Badger.
Hey, Britt, practice is over. I need you to catch a bubble screen and try to make Ty miss. It was just trying to get him back into open field tackling. Since he didn't get an opportunity preseason wise. It's easier to get a guy like that back in because you can do stuff like that after practice. You're a franchise quarterback. You can't just say, hey, after practice, we're going to put Kyler Murray in a pocket and we're going to send 8 defensive linemen at him and see how he, how he reacts.
Right.
It's tough as a quarterback because you can't do things like that. It's got to be real-time action that's going to do it. Like you said, Carson enjoyed playing early preseason games where he could feel the live bullets coming at him, right, in situations like that. In the middle of the season, it's very hard to do that for a quarterback.
Everybody drop a like on this video. Getting inside, in my opinion, you can't get anywhere else. I'm going to tell you right now, though, Bo Brock, watching Josh Dobbs today, I don't know, we feel like we're pretty confident Kyler Murray potentially coming back this week. Had that before the game. I don't know how you watch Dobbs and you're not like, let's get this going here. I know grand scheme of things, big picture, it's easy for everybody to say tank, 2024 draft, right? Big picture rebuild. I mean, they're 1-5 today, and they could be staring down the barrel of 1-6, 1-7. And you want to be able to give people hope of we're going to be able to turn it around in the second half of the season and have a more, competent showing offensively or as a team, put these games away. Jonathan Gannon, I mean, everybody's human. It's like Joshua Dobbs, for whatever reason, has regressed, right? And good coaches coach him out of it. But at the same time, they're in this group right now with the Bears and the Patriots and these teams that are really struggling to start the year. Outside of Carolina, they're a part of a group of about 4 or 5 teams that only have 1 win on the year. I'm sure they're chomping at the bit to say, you know what, we got to get K1 back and get that momentum going, because as long as he's on pup, Bo, I don't care about anything else. To Britton's point, you can't get any kind of momentum going.
Right, and that's why I think it's now. The time is now. Where before you could say, he played well, a week removed, right? But now it's 2 weeks removed.
Yeah.
And now, the light at the end of the tunnel seems further away. And you look at this game, and the final score is not indicative of how close this game was at times, and how having a quarterback the caliber of Kyler Murray, just having a quarterback that's maybe a step or a notch above Joshua Dobbs, and I believe that, Kyler Murray is several notches above Joshua Dobbs. No disrespect there, but, Kyler Murray is a franchise caliber quarterback. Joshua Dobbs was available, before the start of the regular season. There's a big difference there. Kyler Murray hits on at least one of those 2 hits on Hollywood Brown.
Right.
You're turning field goals into touchdowns. You're putting the pressure on the Los Angeles Rams going into the locker room. They can't deploy the game plan that they had where they're just going to run it 9 out of 10 times to start the second half because there's more of a sense of urgency. Kyler Murray's hitting Rondale more easily or putting an accurate ball on Zach Ertz when you're trailing 9-16 instead of a turnover going the other way. You're probably scoring there. I mean, that's the difference, and that's completely changing the complexion of the game in several different moments, and that's what the difference is.
Yeah, I just want to push back on one of these comments here. K1 respectfully says, this is already a lost year. No point in rushing Kyler back, and I agree with the latter half. You don't want to rush him back. I mean, they're within a top 4 pick right now, and we have to talk about that and acknowledge that. It's a robust quarterback draft. And the longer they wait to pull the ripcord and bring Kyler Murray back, and this is something that Bo and I have talked about and I've argued for the better part of 2 or 3 weeks, how many games is enough to convince the coaching staff, but more importantly, Ossenfort, that Kyler Murray is the guy for next year and to pay him $50+ million. Like, if they love Drake Maye and they're picking in the top 2, they're going to fucking draft Drake Maye. If they're picking 1, they're going to take Caleb Williams. So, like, you can say, well, we'll just put Kyler on ice and we'll play him at the end of November into this. No, I'm not going to do that. Like, you have to get him out there and have a ton of quality reps and participation and live reps and bullets with this team to determine what we all hope is Kyler Murray's the franchise quarterback in 2024. They finish with a top 2 pick, though, Britton. Like, this is a generational quarterback draft. And I get it. These guys are playing no-name schools on Saturday. Caleb looked terrible. It's the cost, right? And it's the fact this regime did not draft Kyler Murray. They have to find out now today with Kyler Murray if he's the guy.
No, and I agree. And that's why I think he needs to come. I mean, I don't like you said, I don't want to rush him back. But you need to see him play right now.
Right.
Because whether you want and you have the top 2 picks and you do take one of those guys, you still have to look at other needs you have.
Right.
If I take Caleb Williams and Drake Maye and he's got the same problem on the offensive line, I'm putting him in a bad situation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just you want Kyler to come back. You don't want to rush him back, but you need it. I saw Bees in the chat put something in there. It was like, it'll bring, whether he plays or not, it should bring a spark back to this team. And I agree with that.
Yes.
If you have Kyler activated, he doesn't have to play at this point. But the fact that he's activated gives a little bit of hope in that locker room, especially in that receiver room, that, hey, I get my franchise quarterback is going to see the field a little bit better than what we're looking at right now with Dobbs. There's got to be some type of spark that brings you back that, hey, franchise is coming back in the next couple weeks. There's a little bit of hope in this locker room. Let's try to push for this.
There's going to be opportunities, enough of them on the schedule, to where you can determine, like, does Kyler Murray turn back the clock and show that he's the franchise caliber quarterback that was making all those big play throws, right, in 2021, the guy who was an MVP candidate through, 7 to 11 weeks in 2021. Like, if they play the Falcons and the talent disparity isn't as large as it is against some of the other teams like San Francisco, and there are plays left on the field like there were today, then you can say, hey, like, it's not. There's not that big a difference, and we're paying for a big difference, $230.5 million.
And that's the key. It's the money. It's the money and the cost, because they are going to attempt to rebuild this roster. Mm-hmm. And while you do that majority with draft picks, you got to be able to go out and spend some money in free agency. I get it, they got a bunch of money this offseason, but the biggest advantage in the NFL right now is a quarterback on a rookie contract and loading up that roster. It's how Jalen Hurts and company went to the Super Bowl, how Brock Purdy is poised to be a number 1 or number 2 seed in the NFC this year. Having a loaded team elevate a first-round quarterback. And, I think we can all blame Steve Keim because he didn't support Kyler Murray that way before he made his money. They have the biggest thing the remainder of this season should be, on top of developing these young players, is determining whether or not Kyler Murray is the guy for this team, for Gannon and Ossenfort. I think if you ask them, they would say yes. I think they believe that. But we won't know until he starts playing games.